Let's be real, in a world where everything from our watches to our refrigerators is online, computer security isn't just for tech wizards anymore. Nope, it's for all of us. So let's break down what you actually need to know right now. Just take a second. Count them up in your head. You've got your phone, for sure, your laptop, maybe a smartwatch, a smart speaker, maybe even your thermostat. It kind of sneaks up on you how quickly that number grows, doesn't it? And here's the kicker. Every single one of those devices is a potential doorway into your digital life. And that's exactly why we need to talk about how to get the right locks on those doors. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to get a handle on the real scale of the threat. Then we'll get inside an attacker's head to see how they operate. After that, we'll talk about building up our own defenses. We'll look at what's really at stake. And finally, we'll see the massive role that each of us plays in keeping our digital world safe.
Okay, let's dive right in by looking at the challenge we're all up against. And it's a big one.
So what are we even talking about here? Well, at its heart, computer security, you'll hear it called cybersecurity, is really just about protecting our digital stuff. It's about guarding your phone from getting stolen, sure, but also your apps from getting hijacked and your photos and bank details from ending up in the wrong hands. And listen, if you think this is some far-off theoretical problem, think again. The threat is very, very real. A 2023 UK government report found that nearly a third of all businesses got breached just in the last year. It is happening all the time. You know, to make this all a bit easier to picture, let's use an analogy. Imagine your entire digital life is a castle. Inside that castle are all your treasures, your data, your identity, your money. Cybersecurity, then, is everything you do to build the walls, post the guards, and defend that castle from anyone trying to get in. So, if you're going to defend a castle, you have to understand your enemy, right? You gotta know how they think. So let's get into the anatomy of an attack and meet these invaders. Okay, one of the most common ways they try to get in is called phishing. And this isn't some super complex technical hack. It's a psychological trick. It's all about deception, trying to fool you into just handing over the keys to your castle yourself.
I mean, look at this. This is a classic. It looks kind of official, it makes you feel panicked, and it pushes you to just react without thinking. It's preying on your trust and your fear to get you to make a mistake. But here's the good news. Once you know what to look for, these things are actually pretty easy to spot. You've got the typos, that urgent, threatening language, generic greetings like "Dear Valued Customer." And here's the golden rule. Always, always hover your mouse over a link to see where it's really going to take you before you ever click it. All right, next up we have malware. It's just short for malicious software. Think of these as digital pests. You've got viruses that spread and mess up your files. And then you have things like ransomware, which are basically digital kidnappers that lock up your data and demand a ransom to get it back. Now, once an attacker gets inside, they don't just stand still. They try to gain more power using something called privilege escalation. They might move horizontally, like a spy testing every single door on one floor of a building. Or they might try to move vertically, like that same spy finding a master key card that gets them into the penthouse suite. Either way, their goal is to get more and more control. Okay, enough about the invaders. Let's talk about the solution. This is where we flip the script. This is where we stop being a potential victim and start being a defender. It is time to build our digital defenses. You know, the foundation of all good security is something called digital hygiene. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Just like washing your hands helps keep you from getting sick, these are simple, routine habits that protect your digital health. These habits are so simple, but they are incredibly powerful. Using a different, strong password for every important account, that's non-negotiable. Updating your software, that closes the very holes that attackers are looking for. But if you remember just one thing from this, let it be this. Always think before you click. But look, good habits are only half the story. To really make your digital castle a fortress, you have to combine those smart habits with the right technology, the modern-day version of moats and high walls. Two of the most essential tools are firewalls and two-factor authentication, or 2FA. A firewall is basically a security guard for your network. It checks everything trying to get in or out and blocks anything that looks shady. And 2FA, that's like having two different locks on your front door. Even if a thief manages to steal your key, your password, they still can't get in without that second key, which is usually a code that goes right to your phone. So, why does all of this matter so much?
Let's zoom out and talk about the real-world stakes and the systems that we all depend on every single day. Take a look at this. You can see that while, yes, small businesses are definitely targets, the problem just gets bigger and bigger as companies grow. For larger organizations, it's really not a question of if they'll get attacked, it's a question of when. And we are not just talking about emails and spreadsheets here. Cybersecurity protects our entire financial system. It protects our healthcare. We're talking medical records, hospital equipment, even devices inside our bodies like pacemakers. It protects our cars, our governments, and that ever-growing web of smart devices in our homes. The stakes, they're just unbelievably high. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important part. Our own personal role in all of this, because the technology can only do so much. The rest, well, that comes down to the human element. You know, the pros in this field know that you can't just cross your fingers and hope for the best. They build what's called a security culture. They have a clear plan. They figure out what people know, set clear goals, train everybody, and then they check their work to see if it's working. It's a constant cycle, and it's all built around one idea. Your technology is only as strong as the people who are using it. Which really just leaves us with this one final thought to chew on. Our devices, our homes, our whole world is getting smarter and more connected every single day. So the real question we have to ask ourselves is, as our world gets smarter, how do we make sure that we get wiser right along with it?